All you're doing is looking at 12 archetypes here and beginning to speak their language. Acupuncture has been able to understand a part of the language. Astrology has been able to understand another part of the language. Ayurvedic medicine also understands another part of the medicine. But when you begin to combine them, they all at the heart, they all talk a language of 12 archetypes. But as you can see up here to this upper right, this is how these 12 archetypes are transforming and talking. And all of these transformations here that you see, that's all 6-element theory. That's all the spherical meridian pattern. That's all right there. And so this becomes the language of life, the language of disease, and the language of healing. Whether you're in India, Brazil, Greece, China, wherever you are, this is the language that you're expressing in your own language, like the language of India. But at the core of our beings, this is the original language.
Yes, it's complex, but yeah, makes sense.
I think we need to practice this language. We need to draw the
Yeah.
charts and practice it over again and again and again. Then we will get it.
In my book, I will explain all of these symbols, even from astrology. I'll explain the meridians, how they relate to the physiology of the body. So in the book, you get a lot of information.
Yeah, I need to read those chapters. I didn't have time for that. I will read it.
Basically, you come down to the point where you just realize there's a language here, and you're going to learn a language. And we are that language, and we're learning the language that makes us who we are. And then we'll be able to communicate deeply with other people because we know the language deep inside of them. No matter what culture they speak, no matter what language they speak, no matter how they dress, no matter anything, male, female, we know that there's this language creating them. And through that language, we can heal. We can diagnose disease, and we can heal.
So you heal just with your hands, mentalizing the color that will harmonize the meridian in problem, right? You don't use needles.
Okay, let's say the gallbladder is the reservoir of potential energy. We fill ourselves with gallbladder. We feel good. It's like waking up in the morning full of energy. How do we get that energy to assimilate into our body? Well, we look to see where that gallbladder energy is flowing. We see it flowing down into spleen, the light blue. So if we want to absorb energy, this potential energy to live, if we want to absorb the energy of the sun, we imagine our bodies bathed in a light blue. And then our bodies become the receptacle to receive that pink light. So if you know somebody who needs some uplifting, they need some energy, send them blue light. You don't have to send them the pink light. You can send them the blue light, and then they will be able to receive and keep the pink light. If you just send them pink light, the pink light might go and bounce off, but have no place to sit. The pink light of gallbladder goes to them. If you send them energy in the color pink, that pink light may just go right past them because it has no place to sit. So you give them light blue color, and then when that that pink energy comes, it says, oh, I like to flow into the light color blue. And then that color pink sits inside of them and stays. Do you hear that language? So it's not just saying, oh, this person needs energy, I'll send them the pink light. You want to understand the story. You want to understand the story of how these archetypes talk. The pink light says, I would love to go there, but I'd have no place to sit. I have nothing to receive me. If you could put some light blue color there, then when I go to this person, I'll have a place they can absorb me into that light blue color and use me.
Just like we do with the needles, we prepare the several meridians with the needles, so and then for the flow to go and to flow without obstacles, right?
Exactly. But I'm teaching some tools here which are very, very useful to understanding how to use this thing, this spherical pattern, to understand its story. It's telling a story of how life is created and how life develops. And as we begin to understand that story, it becomes simple. Oh, that light wants to go into the color blue, that sky blue. So all I have to do is, if I'm needling the gallbladder, make sure I needle some spleen meridian, because that spleen meridian is going to be able to hold the energy that I'm developing in the gallbladder. And even if you don't work with acupuncture, you can just use colors. Or even like you, Aisha, if you're just using kinesiology and your hands,
Yes.
as you're working certain parts of the body, you can visualize certain colors in your hand. You could visualize a rainbow of all 12 colors coming from your hands and flowing in with 12 colors. And you're speaking the language. The divine consciousness that creates us uses this language to create us.
A long back, I had a book on color therapy. Actually, I was just going through the book, and it was saying that if you want a color, you can absorb it from the sun. If you want a green color, you take a glass of water, cover it with a green color sheet, transparent sheet of cover, and keep it in the sunlight in the early morning, and all the green colors will be absorbed in that. And you make the person drink the water for a particular deficiency in the body.
See, now, if you go to India, let me see if I can get this right here. And ask yourself, why do the Buddhist monks wear orange?
Yeah, they do wear orange, I know.
Why do they wear orange? What if you look here, you're going to see a story. The stomach here is orange, the color orange. And you'll see flowing into the stomach is the heart, that fire, and liver, which is that wood fire, that mutable fire of astrology, and the cardinal fire of astrology flow into the stomach. So what does the color orange do?
So it's correlating everything together. It's like a center.
So if you wear the color orange, what colors are you attracting?
Green.
This green and red.
Green and red.
Yeah.
And what do you find in these colors of green and red?
Liver and heart.
The liver and heart. You're finding this fire that begins to fill you. You're finding this inspiration, this power to activate, to do things. And then, so they wear orange, and through the orange, they're attracting all of this fire inside of them. And then what do? They meditate. And they contain that fire within them. And then, through their calm presence and their meditation, they direct that fire through their meditations to where they want to go. Where do they go? Bladder and lung. These are air elements. Bladder is mutable air, lung is cardinal air. And this becomes visualization. They're able to take that fire within them and visualize and see spiritually. So that color orange has a powerful influence in their whole process to open their mind, to take that fire, absorb that fire, and use that fire to open their mind. You see a story.
Yes.
And the bladder and the lung breathing. So what do the Buddhist monks do, dressed in orange? They do breathing exercises and visualization.
Meditation.
And so you see the whole story right here. Heart flows to liver, feeding that fire that flows through us. And then heart and liver both flow to stomach, which is that orange color, that base holding everything together. And then once you have that substance, you create form, bladder and lung. You flower like a tree blossoming. And that the process of blossoming with a flower is the lung meridian. Opening up and presenting your beauty to the world to attract bees to pollinate. And then once you open yourself up through the lung and a bee comes to pollinate you, that energy goes right into the sanjiao for procreation. And the sanjiao is balancing the stomach. So you've blossomed spiritually, and now you're balancing that orange color with the spiritual illumination of the sanjiao. And then that sanjiao feeds back into liver, which feeds back into stomach. And then you begin to see a pattern here where the monks are letting the green color flow into that color orange. Then through breathing exercises, they're illuminating their consciousness through sanjiao, which then feeds back in to the color green, which then feeds back into more realization and more illumination. You begin to see a story of
Yes, very beautiful connected it is.
of how they develop their spiritual practices in one part of the spherical meridian flow.
Yes.
And you can go to another part of the spherical meridian flow, like so just right here, and go from kidney to lung to bladder to pericardium. Just follow these arrows. And you can develop a whole spiritual practice just off of breathing, meditating, and introspection through the pericardium of understanding your own life and what you do right and wrong and what it all means. Going to the kidney and meditating and developing insights, continuing to breathe, it becomes very mental, very intellectual, but through reasoning, through the process of reasoning here, you can really uplift your consciousness through this particular section of the spherical meridian flow. Just develop a spiritual practice just on these 4 meridians that flow in a little circle. And anywhere you go, you can see another 4 meridians going in a circle here.
Everywhere we have a story. And
And
together they form a big picture.
there's another story right there. That's another beautiful story right there. You come over here, heart, liver, small intestine, spleen. Go in a little circle there. That's another beautiful story. And people are living that story and becoming more spiritual.
So we got the secret of the monks now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ultimately, this is a language that we can build stories upon. And we have like astrology gives us the tools to understand these archetypes. Like if we go to lung meridian here, acupuncture will teach us about the lung meridian. But we also know it's Venus and the sign of Libra in Western astrology, and then that will teach us about the archetype. And then we can go to Ayurvedic medicine and understand in their system what they have learned about this element, this archetype. And then we start piecing that all together. We begin to understand the story of that archetype. And then we see how it relates to the other archetypes, and we start writing stories. So that gives you an overall view of really what this is that we're being created from this. And to really understand this, you're not going to get there through 5-element theory. You have to have 6 elements. That's the only way to unlock the symbolic pattern to reach this. You have to understand a 6th element. 5 elements are within this. It's an aspect of this. But in order to see this as it is completely, you have to understand a 6th element. There's just no way around it. Because as you know, there's 4 elements in the fire element. There's 4 meridians in the fire element. Once you liberate those 2 meridians of pericardium and Sanjiao into that 6th element, that opens the door to see this.